Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to tell you about our new list of books releasing this summer. I'm Donna Spurlock, the Director of Marketing here at Charlesbridge, and I am joined today by my colleague, Jackie Torea.
Hello.
And we are also very glad to have three of our authors with us today. David Hyde Costello.
Hi.
JaNay Brown-Wood.
Hello, hello.
And Don Tate.
Welcome.
Before we begin, I want to invite everyone to feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. Our friend Lauren is monitoring the message board, so just type in your questions or comments, and we'll strive to answer you as we go along. But there will be time at the end to ask questions, so feel free to wait. Also, if anyone needs a professional development certificate, just email Rachel at rduty@charlesbridge.com. So, let's begin with books perfect for summer reading. First up is Up, 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 Skyscraper by Anastasia Suen and illustrated by Ryan O'Rourke. Little ones who go nuts for construction equipment and trucks will love this visit to a construction site. Everyone gets a hard hat, safety first, and then we learn how a skyscraper goes up, up, up by first going down into a trench and building a retaining wall. Learn the vocabulary for all the equipment like excavator, pile driver, cranes, beams, and more. See piles and columns pounded into bedrock and layer by layer become a building. Fun rhymes are accompanied by a second level of text that explains what is happening, and the quirky illustrations include insets that show the progress of the skyscraper. You can download these insets, which are part of an activity guide, on our website at charlesbridge.com to create your own book and see the skyscraper go up, up, up. This book is perfect for this year's summer reading theme, Build a Better World. And next up is Little Pig Saves the Ship by author-illustrator David Hyde Costello. David, we just love Little Pig.
Thanks. So this is the second Little Pig book, and I thought I would say a little bit about what it was like doing a second book with the same character. I will add a fun fact about the image you see right now. My author photo was taken by author Jeannie Birdsall, which I'm very proud of, and the author photo on the back flap of the book is also taken by Jeannie Birdsall, and it's a picture of a toy ship that I made when I was a kid. And that's what gave rise to this story. This is something that I actually used to do in summertime. I would build boats and sail them in the stream by my house. So that's what Little Pig does with his grandfather in this story. But you can see the cover of the first Little Pig book, Little Pig Joins the Band, and down in the corner. Can we go to the next slide, Donna?
Yeah.
So when we did this book, they had someone design that font that says Little Pig, and they did that in case Little Pig ever did something else. So, Little Pig Joins the Band, Little Pig Rides the Bus, or whatever. And I actually was not that. I initially wasn't that interested in that idea, but then at some point I remembered this other story that I had written years before about a kid and his grandfather sailing a boat, and it occurred to me at some point that could be a Little Pig story, and I had put that story away. I had just filed it away because it wasn't really working. And when it occurred to me that it could be a Little Pig story, that actually solved some of the problems in that story, and that's how it became the story for Little Pig Saves the Ship. But then was the question of what makes it a Little Pig story in terms of design, because one of my standards for myself was I wanted the book to be able to stand on its own as a book, that you wouldn't have to read Little Pig Joins the Band to understand Little Pig Saves the Ship, or vice versa. But then was a question of what are the design elements that make something a Little Pig book. So one of them, here on the cover, we've got, if you open the cover up all the way, it creates one whole picture. So when Little Pig Joins the Band, he's walking past all of those instruments, and then he's going to that box that you see on the right, which is the front flap of the book. So the box is, if you know the story, that's where it's all driving to. He gets something important out of that box. So the front flap gives you a hint of what's coming in the story. So if we go now to the cover of Little Pig Saves the Ship, then same thing. We've got the font, of course, the Little Pig font, and if you open it up all the way, it makes one whole picture, and then the front flap also gives you a clue of what's coming in the story, which you can see just the very far right edge. We start to see just a little bit of the waterfall that's going to be important in the story later. So I can't remember what the next picture is. What's the next picture, Donna?
The next picture.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. So yeah. So it all drives to this important moment where what Little Pig is getting out of that box is the whistle and the hat and the baton, because he's now going to become the leader of the band. So there's this 2-page spread that's a big moment in the big pivotal moment in the book, and we've got one of those in Little Pig Saves the Ship as well. And we actually thought about, is there going to be another word on this page where he's just, whether he's just, screaming or, but we actually decided not to do that, to have it be almost he's saying the word, he's continuing his dialogue from the page before to say waterfall, but we decided to just have it be more of a moment of I don't know what you'd call it, like quiet suspension. But there's the big moment is when the ship goes down the waterfall. So yeah. And now, so another big difference is that staying with our summer theme, this story happens outdoors, and so one thing that had to, in Little Pig Joins the Band, there's a lot of white space, and so the speech balloons, what are they called if they're not actually balloons? They're just written with a little line. I can't remember what that's called, but because this book happens outside, there's a lot of dark green background, and so then I had to shift to actual speech balloons, so you get a white background for the lettering. And then I added, the book was very green, everything was very green, and then I added that little red flag to the ship, because the ship is the most important, it's like central to the whole story. So I added that little red flag so your eye would go right to it on the page. And I can't remember if we have one more. Do we have another? Yeah. And there's another element in this story that exists in Little Pig Saves the Ship, is that someone has to fall down, because I've noticed that kids respond well to that mode of comedy. So in Little Pig, there's a longer story to that, but I don't want to take up too much time. But in Little Pig Joins the Band, there's a big pile up. Everybody falls down, and in this one, his grandfather is acting very confident, like, "Don't worry, Little Pig, I'm going to go get it." And but then he slips in the mud and falls, and it's up to Little Pig then to save the ship. So incompetent adults, overconfident, incompetent adults, I think is a winning mode of comedy for picture books for me. And that's Little Pig Saves the Ship, a book of incompetent adults.
It's a book about incompetent adults.
Right. No, it's about Little Pig's intrepid problem solving.
That's awesome. I love the intergenerational story in this, and how they work together throughout the summer. And just so everyone knows, Little Pig Saves the Ship. It just came out on May 2nd, but it has received 2 starred reviews in School Library Journal and 1 in Kirkus Reviews. And Kirkus said, "Here's hoping Little Pig will take his time growing up and gift readers with a few more tales of being smallest." So I hope so, David. I know, isn't that sweet?
That is very sweet.
Our plans.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, exactly. Well, there's lots of other nouns and verbs we could plug in there.
There you
Little
go.
Pig goes to town. Little Pig. I don't know, but no, it's funny. Once Yolanda, my editor, once we started talking about a second book, she just started naturally referring to, and then for the third book, blah blah blah, which we haven't even. But there's no idea in the market now. Apparently that idea just exists once you do a second one.
I know. Type in your ideas, everyone.
Yeah.
There is There is a page in Little Pig Saves the Ship of Little Pig learning how to tie knots. And we've made that page downloadable on our website so that everyone can learn how to tie a nautical knot. David, do you remember what kind of knot that is?
It's a bowline knot. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, but
I don't either. Well,
is it bowline or bowline? It must be bowline. I think it's bowline.
Okay.
People can type that into their answers to their questions as well.
Okay, I'm going to go along with that. Here we are on the waterfront. We don't know anything about sailing.
But I do actually. Well, no. But I should say I did actually consult with someone who does because in their dialogue when they're sailing their toy ship every day, I included some words to imply that Little Pig actually is learning a bit about sailing while he's playing with his toy ship. Because his brothers and sisters are off at sailing camp having fun without him, but he's having his own sailing adventure on his own scale. So. Poor
Little Pig, but I think he's the winner. Thank you, David. Everyone should visit David's website at davidhydecostello.com.
Thanks, Donna.
And thank you. And next, we visit the shore.
Yes, we go from stream to shore. So we are so excited to be reissuing this classic summer picture book by two masters just in time for its 25th anniversary. So in the Seashore book, a boy and his mother imagine what it would be like to spend a day at the shore. The sun and the salt, the rocks smoothed by the sea, the shells tucked in the sand, waiting to be found, all this comes to life in Wendell Miner's rich paintings. And Charlotte Zolotow really was a force, with titles like Mr. Rabbit and the Lovely Present, I Know a Lady, and William's Doll. It's great to have one of her titles on our list. And then to pair that with beautiful illustrations by the great Wendell Miner, I just really think we lucked out. So with a new cover and a few updates, this classic is sure to delight a whole new generation of beachgoers.
And this book is incredibly beautiful. And now we move on to elementary entertainment. And first up is Grandma's Tiny House, a counting story by JaNay Brown-Wood with illustrations by Priscilla Burris. JaNay is the author of Imani's Moon, which was her first book and was released in 2014. There was a line in that book which I think is so beautiful, JaNay. A challenge is only impossible until someone accomplishes it. I think that fits Grandma's Tiny House too.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited to be here to have this opportunity to talk about Grandma's Tiny House, a counting story. But before I give you a preview of the book, I want you to take a moment and think about the holidays, like the 4th of July, right? Specifically, think about your favorite holiday. Who's there with you? Is it your husband or wife, your sisters or brothers? Is it your mother, your father, aunts and uncles, cousins? How about your best friends? Are there a lot of people with you or just a few of your favorites? And on this joyous holiday, what are you doing? Are you chatting? Are you playing games? Are you eating? I know I am. And with all these memories and thoughts of loved ones around you, the good company and the good times, how are you feeling? Are you filled with happiness? Are you smiling just thinking about this? Maybe you're feeling a little nostalgic. I know I always get nostalgic when I reminisce about the lovely holidays that I've had with my loved ones. My family's holiday gatherings and really those feelings of warmth and love and happiness are what inspired me to write my story, Grandma's Tiny House, a counting story. And I try to capture those same feelings within my words. So I want to share a few of the first few pages with you and then go on and sort of discuss a little bit of what this could look like really in a classroom utilizing a book like Grandma's Tiny House. So I will begin. Tiny in size, at the edge of Brown Street, sits Grandma's old house where we all go to meet. Grandma's house stays small as the family grows. Will everyone fit inside this time? Who knows? One grandma waits in her big easy chair while two turkeys send scrumptious smells through the air. And I'm actually going to stop the reading there because you'll have to get the book and read it to find out specifically what happens. But I know, the teaser, right? The teaser. But like this illustration here that Priscilla Burse captured, and I have to say her illustrations are just wonderful. They're fun and adorable, and I especially love, and I think I've shared this with her before, I love the texture of the little girl's afro. It's it's perfect. It's perfect. And so really thinking about Grandma's Tiny House and thinking about the summer, if you say you're working with children in summer programs or moving into the school year, there are really so many elements in this book that teachers can utilize within the classroom to really extend the learning of their children. So for one, it's a counting book, right? So many times books tend to go up to the number 10, but I think about when I worked with preschool children, sometimes it's a little trickier capturing numbers like 11, 12, 13. So because of that, I decided I wanted the book to include more than just going up to 10. It actually goes up to 15. As the reader counts the family members and the delicious ethnic foods that make their way up the stairs into Grandma's house. On top of that, the book is written in rhyme, and you got a little taste of that from the preview. And of course, we know rhyme is an inherent piece of English language arts, and even tying with the Common Core. So within the story, children can hear the rhythm of the story as well as the end rhymes on each page. And teachers can engage children and talk about rhyming, and children can make up their own rhymes and do those sorts of fun things as well. Another thing that I really, really like about the book is that almost everyone can relate in some way. So getting together with loved ones, sharing good food and good company. So when I was having you sort of reminisce your own experiences with your family, many of us, like I said, can relate to this. And this works as a great teaching tool because it can be a jumping off point for discussions with children. I mean, asking children questions like, well, who is in your family? Is your family large or small? What types of foods do you eat when you get together with your family and those who you love? Where do you gather for the holidays? For example, for 4th of July, do you go to the beach with your family, or do you pile into Grandma's tiny house and have a barbecue? Which holidays do you actually celebrate? So those are just for some examples of questions that teachers can pose to children to have them discuss so that they can really compare and contrast with their classmates and think about the things that they have in common and that they share with their families, and then the things that are a little bit different. So something else that I really like about this book, and I know I had us thinking about the holiday. Of course, the book was inspired by the holidays for me, but I don't explicitly give a holiday in the book. Although, for example, here we see she's cooking turkeys, but really my family, we'd eat turkey more than just Thanksgiving. So it's a fun thing to think about because with this book, it could be family gatherings. It could apply to any holidays. It could apply to things like Sunday brunches, barbecues, summertime parties, or really just the families coming together to enjoy each other's company. So I like to think of it as like part holiday book plus some. So as you read this book with children, I certainly hope that it ignites warmth and happy memories that you have and have had during family gatherings and holidays. And I surely hope it does the same for children, as well as allowing them to practice counting from 1 to 15. And if you're like me, you never get enough of the holidays and spending time with your family. So for those days in between, Grandma's Tiny House is sure to make you smile and reminisce about those you love. So I just want to end off with this just little piece. Although Grandma's home is very petite, a lot of love fits in that house on Brown Street.
That's adorable.
Wonderful.
JaNay is a professor of early childhood education at American River College, but your first book, as I said, was Imani's Moon. How did you get started as an author?
You know, as far back as I can remember, writing was a part of my life. I just loved writing. I loved coming up with stories, even acting them out and making silly voices. So writing has just been me. And after I finished my bachelor's degree at UCLA, I decided, you know what, I want to try to do this professionally. So that kind of got the ball rolling in trying to create stories and actually trying to get them published. And to add to that, too, Imani's Moon was really the first picture book that I had written and tried to get published. And I was so fortunate that I could say that was my first. And, you know, Charlesbridge, so thankful to Charlesbridge for embracing Imani's Moon as well as Grandma's Tiny House.
Well, we're thankful because both of these stories are so beautifully told and beautifully done, and sweet girl stories.
Thank you.
And be sure to visit JaNay online at JaNayBrown-Wood.com. Thank you so much, JaNay.
Thank you.
And after dinner, dirty kids take a bath.
It's true. Next up, we have Around the World in a Bathtub, Bathing All Over the Globe. This is by Wade Bradford and illustrated by Misha Archer. And in this lively book, we get a look at bath time around the world, from a hammam in Turkey to a maki on the Alaskan tundra to hot springs in Nepal. This colorful picture book shares bath time traditions and battles that happen every night around the world. Yes, yes, say the grown-ups. No, no, say the children. Does that sound familiar to anyone? With Misha Archer's vibrant art, a mix of paint and cut paper art collage, the bath time struggle is fun and playful as well as informative. This is both an exploration of cultures and language, and it is a wonderful addition to any Windows and Mirrors collection. Also available on our website is a video where you can learn different words and phrases in each of the 7 languages covered in the book, as well as a downloadable activity guide with matching games, mazes, and more. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah, this is a completely fun book, and the art is so amazing.
I love
so
it.
Gorgeous. Next up is The One Day House by Julia Durango and illustrated by Bianca Diaz. And this is just a beautiful story of the power of community. Inspired by a friend's volunteerism, Julia Durango tells the story of Wilson, a young boy who has a close relationship to Gigi, an elderly neighbor whose house is in need of repair. Wilson tells Gigi that one day he will give her house a fresh coat of paint, and that one day he'll fix her roof to keep out the wind and snow, and that one day he'll fix her stairs so she can sit on the balcony. His list goes on, and Gigi enjoys dreaming with him, but his friendship is all she needs. But then, one day, the neighborhood, who have also shared Wilson's dreams, gather together and fix up Gigi's house as a community. There is back matter with information about Habitat for Humanity, the United Way, and Labor of Love. In this story, young readers can see that one person can make a difference in another's life, and that by helping others, we are helping ourselves.
I love it. That's so great. It's one of those books that just makes you feel really warm and fuzzy at the end.
I know, and this is a great way to show kids that they can participate. That you don't have to wait one day when you're a grown up.
Absolutely.
Next up.
Next, we have A New School Year, Stories in 6 Voices. This is by Sally Derby, illustrated by Mika Song. In a unique narrative, readers meet Ethan, Zach, Katie, Jackie, Carlos, and Mia. Each child is starting a new year ranging from kindergarten to 5th grade. With each grade comes a different set of nerves and fears, excitements and challenges. With the new year also comes the familiar hustle in the morning, meeting new teachers and new classmates during the day, and heading home with homework and the relief by day's end. The illustrations are simple and sweet and evoke all of those feelings wrapped up in that first day back at school. Betsy Bird says, honest and diverse, touching and good, this book's a keeper. Hand it out when August rolls around and give a kid that sage advice that sometimes things really do turn out all right. And I have to say, we agree with Betsy Bird.
Well, in all things, I think. Yeah, this is a great back to school story for sure. For all grades. I think it would be a great one for the older kids to read to the younger kids on those mentoring days.
Well, and I think it's great too for younger kids to get that sense that older kids are also nervous and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the new year is new for everyone.
Yep.
Okay, and now we get to meet new friends and revisit some familiar faces. And first up is Strong as Sandow, How Eugene Sandow Became the Strongest Man on Earth, written and illustrated by Don Tate. Hi, Don.
Hello. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to talk about my new book, Strong as Sandow, How Eugene Sandow Became the Strongest Man on Earth. I am really excited and anticipating the publication of this book later this year in August. For those of you who are not familiar with my work, I am an author and illustrator of more than 50 books. Primarily, I focused on little-known historical figures, African-American historical figures. I'm a huge advocate for more diversity in children's books through my work with We Need Diverse Books and the Brown Bookshelf. So this is a bit of a detour for me, but I think that this is a fun story and an important story that everyone can enjoy. So I thought that I would start with talking about my inspiration for the story. As a kid, I was skinny. Skinny Minnie, my mom always called me. Recognizing my anxiety about it, my dad bought me a bench press and a book on nutrition for bodybuilders. My little brothers and I cared less about the nutrition part, however. We simply wanted to grow up to have superhero-like physiques, like the bodybuilders in the book. Years later, my brother won a statewide bodybuilding competition, and that's when I started thinking about competing too. But could a skinny kid like me win a bodybuilding competition? For 2 years, I trained with my brother, and finally I entered a bodybuilding competition. But I lost. And I was devastated, but I did not give up. I trained for another year, and I won 2 bodybuilding trophies. It was the best night of my life. And you know how it is, how we authors, we tell kids to write what you know. Well, I knew about bodybuilding and physical fitness. And I wanted to try to figure out a way to put that into a book. But how do you go about telling a story about bodybuilding? I mean, 3rd graders don't bodybuild, right? Well, one day I was on the internet and I came across this picture of Eugene Sandow, the father of bodybuilding. And I was inspired by his story of being a sickly, unhealthy kid who built himself up to become known as the strongest man on earth. So I wrote about Eugene Sandow. And I thought I would do a short reading, and I'm going to paraphrase here. In his day, Eugene Sandow was known as the strongest man on earth. He could break metal chains by expanding his broad chest. He could hoist a grand piano over his head. He even boasted of once wrestling a 500-pound lion. No doubt Eugene Sandow was the strongest of all strong men, but he wasn't always strong. His birth name was Frederick Mueller. He was born in Königsberg, Prussia in 1867. As a boy, he loved athletics, but most times he was too sick and weak to play. Frederick excelled in school, though, and as a reward for his high honors, his father took him on a trip to Italy. They visited the famous art galleries, and Frederick was awestruck by the muscled statues of ancient athletes. The heroes of old, Frederick's father told him, they were ever active, exercising their bodies. Exercise, that was it. To make himself stronger, Frederick ran longer. He jumped higher. He exercised like never before. But his 10-year-old body simply wasn't ready to bloom yet. Later, under the guidance of a professional strongman, Frederick learned about bodybuilding. He lifted metal weights so heavy his muscles quivered, but soon his muscles began to grow. He also learned about showmanship, costumes, stage presence, and by the time he was 20 years old, he was a bona fide professional strongman, and he changed his name. He would forever be known as Eugene Sandow. Now, I'm not going to reveal the rest of this story, other than to say that Eugene Sandow organized the very first bodybuilding competition. He started a business where folks could order exercise equipment and follow his fitness regimen at home. And he started the very first bodybuilding and fitness magazine, a precursor to many of the health magazines that we subscribe to today. He was a turn-of-the-century superstar, much like LeBron James and Stephen Curry are superstars today. Writing Strong as Sandow was the most fun that I've ever had researching, illustrating, and creating a book for kids. And I'm just pleased that Charlesbridge recognized my enthusiasm and published this story. And yes, my bodybuilding photo, strategically cropped, became the author's photo. FYI, I did want to add some more information. I have a teaching guide which is available on my website and on Charlesbridge's website as well. It's all Common Core aligned. And also I created a sister site to go along with the book where kids can go and they can learn more about my research process. There are some of my primary source materials there and more stories, real-life stories about the strongmen that I wrote about.
Very
and I also,
cool.
Okay.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I just want to just say that, you know, oftentimes when, you know, we're writing nonfiction, you know, folks ask you, so what is the takeaway? What do you hope that your readers are going to take away from the story? And so often, I think, especially with nonfiction, we want to deliver a message. You know, we want kids to learn and grow and teach them a history lesson. We want them to walk away with some profound lesson in life. And then oftentimes we want to turn around and test them on it, which takes away all of the fun of reading a book. But that's not what this story is all about. Of course, there's the underlying message of health and taking care of one's body for a stronger mind, and setting a goal and the difficulty with which reaching that goal and where ultimately reaching that goal can take a reader. But with this book, I want my readers to simply enjoy the story. It's a larger-than-life story that all kids will enjoy, and I just want them to enjoy the experience so that, and especially with nonfiction, they will want to return to the book again and again, and they'll just want to read other stories about real people.
Exactly, and it's inspiring. Didn't Sandow encourage physical fitness in schools as well?
He was a huge proponent of a national physical fitness program in schools. Yes.
Yeah.
And in his monthly magazine, he had a children's pages where he offered special children's exercises and physical fitness activities in his magazine.
Well, he would have been disappointed that I tried to get out of gym class all the time.
Me too. I was one of those who was not in gym class very often.
Be sure to visit Don on his website at dontate.com. And I want to mention that Don is also the illustrator of Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's super soaking, how's it go? What's the last of it?
Stream of Invention.
Stream of Inventions, about Lonnie Johnson, who invented the Super Soaker water gun. which is having a very good year, Don. It's on the CBC Children's Choice Book Awards. So everyone who is listening, please go to everychildareader.net/vote and encourage your students to vote for their favorite books, such as possibly Whoosh. It doesn't have to be Whoosh, but that just makes sense. So, thank you, Don. And in keeping with our fitness theme, we present Long-Armed Ludy.
Next up, we have Long-Armed Ludy and the First Women's Olympic. And this is by Jean L. Patrick, illustrated by Adam Gustafson. So we often say that we're always learning at Charlesbridge, and all lists have at least one story about someone in history that I completely missed, and then I get to learn about them and be amazed by them. So while that was definitely true for Sandow, that also is true for Ludy. So Lucille Ludy Godbold grew up skinny, tall, and athletic. And in her last year in college, she decided to give shot put a try. And out of her long, skinny arm, the iron ball soared farther than anyone expected. So when her coach took her to a meet in New York, she qualified for the first Women's Olympics in 1922. But she didn't have the money to go. So then those around Ludy rallied and they raised the money, believing that she just absolutely had to compete. And it's a good thing they did, because that year, Lucille Ludy Godbold won the gold medal with 1 foot and 2.6 inches to spare. So she had done her friends, her school, the South, and the USA proud. Adam Gustafson's illustrations give Ludy life in this fascinating story about believing in yourself and finding a way with a little help from your friends.
I just love Ludy, and unlike Eugen Sandow, Ludy remained skinny. She could still throw that shot put, though. Next up, well before Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, he was a curious boy interested in how and why he was able to hear the world around him. His father was a speech therapist, which only made Alec even more fascinated by sound and communication. Driven by curiosity and an eagerness to help others, Alec became a teacher for the deaf. Naturally inquisitive and inclined to test his knowledge, young Alec was the perfect person to grow up in the age of invention. As a kid, he toyed with sound vibrations and began a life of inventing. We wouldn't be here right now telling you about Alexander Graham Bell without his help and without his most famous invention. This in-depth look at the life and inspiration of the brilliant man who invented the telephone is sure to fire up the imaginations of young readers who question why and how things work. Back matter includes more information about Bell's inventions, a timeline of his life, a bibliography, and sources for further learning. All right. Let's talk early readers.
So we have the third installment of Sydney and Simon, and they're going to the moon. Not really. But in the third book in the series, the twins are hoping to win first prize in their school's contest to meet astronaut Commander Chris Cornfield. The contest requires everyone to submit the most creative project about the Earth's moon. The trouble is, Sydney's project is all about the art, and Simon's is all about the science. The twins soon realize that they need each other in order to make their projects well-rounded. Similar to Sydney and Simon Go Green and Full Steam Ahead, To the Moon celebrates STEAM, teamwork, and creativity. Short chapters paired with Peter Reynolds' lively illustrations will inspire readers, much like the first two installments by this brother duo, Peter and Paul.
Our sister Mary. All right. Yes, I know. STEAM education. Get arts back into that STEM learning. And also for early readers is Ancient Animals Plesiosaur by Sarah L. Thompson and illustrated by Andrew Plant. Just look at this thing. Fact. The plesiosaur's neck is as long as a pickup truck. the really expensive ones. Kids who love dinosaurs will go nuts for this. 90 million years ago in what is now Kansas, plesiosaurs hunted prey. With their very long necks, huge bodies, and not to mention very big teeth, the plesiosaur was a formidable creature. Illustrator Andrew Plant is a trained zoologist with a great interest in paleontology. His art reflects his study, and we see these creatures come to life in all their terrifying glory. Sarah Thompson explains in clear, concise text how scientists think these reptiles lived, hunted, and became extinct. Back matter introduces other reptiles, both ancient and modern. All right. Scary than the plesiosaur, but only slightly, is middle grade.
Middle grade. No, just kidding. We love middle grade.
With their long, terrifying teeth.
And chapters. No, just kidding. All right. So we have Kat Greene Comes Clean by debut author Melissa Rasky. So Kat Greene, she's a New Yorker, 5th grader, friend of the boy crazy Hallie, daughter of divorced parents, not to mention a mother suffering a preoccupation with cleanliness, a symptom of her worsening obsessive-compulsive disorder. So for Kat, life is messy, and it only gets messier when her mother becomes a contestant on Clean Sweep, a TV game show about cleaning. Kat doesn't want to tell her dad about mom's OCD because she's afraid he will make her move uptown with him and his new family. And she wants to talk to Hallie, but her best friend just doesn't seem to listen anymore. So when things start to look like they will never be normal again, Kat meets Olympia, the school counselor. Olympia's office is messy and cluttered and has a giant comfy chair Kat can sink into and a huge jar of jelly beans on the desk. And suddenly, in that office, Kat has someone to talk to. Kat tells Olympia about her frustrations with the school play, about her best friend, about her mom, and her own fears that she too may someday have OCD. It's through Olympia's guidance that Kat starts to see that things can be normal. They just may look a little different than Kat had once imagined. This is a wonderful young coming of age about getting through it all one step at a time. And it's really great for ages 9 and up.
Yeah, this is a really sweet story. It can be tough at times. Melissa Rasky is a debut author, and I think we'll see some great things coming from her in the future.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, Voyager's Greatest Hits, The Epic Trek to Interstellar Space by Alexandra Tsai. 2017 marks the 40th anniversary of the Voyager missions as the twin space probes that travel to Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune now journey beyond our solar system into interstellar space, where no probe has ventured before. Inspired by the tracks on the Golden Record, a recording of sounds and images about life on Earth, and a copy of which is on each probe, Alexandra Tsai has a great time introducing the scientists who dreamt of this mission, how the probes were built and launched, what their original mission was, what they've seen out there, and how they can keep going. Fun fact, the computer in your car's key fob is more powerful than the computers on board the Voyager probes. What? Amazing images from NASA fill this book, as well as stories of the scientists, the probes, and the mission itself. Back matter includes a glossary, loads of websites and other resources for further study, an author's note, and an index. This is just a really cool book, and if you are studying astronomy and physics, you need this one. It is like a love letter to physics.